Hi, this is Sherry Mumford with Stamping at Last, and I'm going to show you how I made these mini albums. They are 5 1/4 by 6 1/4 and 1/2 inch deep. In this video, I'm going to show you how I made the base for the album. Then I'll do a second video which shows how to decorate this specific one. I'll make a third video which will do a walkthrough of these two albums. This one I made with the Honeybee Suite, and this one I made with the Parisian Beauty Parisian Blossoms bundle. But for now, I'll get started with the base for this Toile Tidings Christmas theme album. Now I make these with file folders. And they don't have to be expensive file folders, just so you know. I get my file folders from Sam's Club. This is what the box looks like. And this box has 150 file folders, and it cost $8.48. So by the time I add the tax where I live and divide it by 150 folders, it comes out to about 6 cents a folder. And for this mini album, we're going to use anywhere from 5 to 6 folders, just depending on how you cut it. And so that means without the designer paper or anything, just for the little mini album, the cost is about 36 cents. And you could probably get about 25 of those out of one of these box of file folders. So we'll go ahead and walk through. I'll show you what it looks like. This is the front. And last year I had done a video on a card that had this snow globe on it. So I like that whole snow globe thing on the front of it. Then this is what the spine looks like. I used another die set to make this light on the edge of it. And then this is the back. And I will go through how I decorated this after we get a mini album put together. So when you first open it, there's a little pocket back here. And there's a little card. So you can put a photo on one side, journal on the other, or put photos on both sides, whatever you want to do. There's a magnet that holds that closed. And this is just a waterfall. You can put a photo, journaling, or you can put photos on all of these. It's just whatever you have in mind, or if you're giving it as a gift to someone, whatever you want to do. So this particular one has a waterfall on the left. There's 3 pages. All 3 pages are very similar. They all have a little insert that comes out. And when you put it back in, there's a little magnet under there that helps keep it closed. Inside the insert, I made a little journaling card, a snow globe themed journaling card, and I'll show you how to make that as well. And you could put something on both sides, or you can put photos, and you can put photos on the back if you want. Like I say, all 3 pages are very similar. The back of the page has a little pocket. I did another little journaling card. And just a tag. You can put photos or journaling, whatever. So this is the second page. Same thing, I pull it out. There's a journaling card. I close it, there's a little pocket, a journaling card, and a tag. Here's the third page. Same as the first 2, this comes open. I put a little journaling card. And you can put tags in here if you want to with photos, or just put a photo. It goes back in. There's a magnet that closes it. And there's the pocket. And then there's a pocket in the back. And I just put a little folder in the back. You can put a couple photos there. It goes in like this. Now these 3 pages, I had gotten this sort of design from a Donna Kaufman video. Mine are smaller than the ones in her video, but that's where I got this design with the page, with the fold over folder, and then the pocket on the back. So that's where I got that idea. I've watched a lot of videos, and I got a few ideas from certain videos, but this is the one I like the best, this idea of how she organized these pages. So now I'll show you how to put it together. Okay, I'm going to start off by showing you what size of pieces you'll need for the album. Now, this first piece, I want you to wait and let me show you how I cut mine. But you're going to need a 15 by 6 1/4. You'll need one of those. But I will show you 2 different ways to cut it. The reason being, the one we're going to put together today has the waterfall. However, my other 2 samples don't have the waterfall in the front. They just have another envelope. So just in case you don't want the waterfall, I'll show you both ways to cut it. In case one, the waterfall's on the left, and the other one, there's the little envelope on the left. So the other pieces you can go ahead and cut though. Let me show you what those are. You'll need one piece that's 9.5 by 5.5. This is going to be for the folded card that goes in the back pocket. One piece, and all of this is cut out of file folders. Like I said, it'll take you 5 or 6 file folders, and just cut these out however, whatever file folders you want to cut them from. You'll need 3 of this size for the pocket folder. And I got mine cut and I labeled them so I know what they are. 8 1/4 by 5 3/4. You'll need 3 of these. This is for the folder that goes in your page. There's 3 pages, so there's 3 folders. For the hinge page is this piece down here that's going to hold the pages. It's got little hinges on it. So you need 1 7.5 by 6. For the pages themselves, you'll need 2 parts. Part 1 is 7 inches by 4 7/8 inches. You'll need 3 of those. For part 2, you'll need 6 by 4 7/8. That's part 2 of the page. For the waterfall, we're going to do a pocket base. So for that base, you need 1 6 by 5 1/4, and you'll need 3 5 by 4 1/4. Now there's a pocket. You noticed a pocket on the back of this. For the 3 pockets, 1 for each page, you'll need 5 3/4 by 2 7/8. For the spine, you'll need a reinforcement piece that's 6 1/8 by 1 3/8. That's a piece here we're going to put on the back of the spine just to reinforce it. For the waterfall closure, you'll need 1 piece of 3 3/4 by 1 1/4. That's this piece right here. 3 3/4 by 1 1/4. You'll need 2 pieces of 2 3/4 by 1. And this is a wedge for the back pocket. The back pocket can kind of come up a little because we have a wedge underneath each end. So you need 2 of those, 2 3/4 by 1. Now you can get these cut ahead of time, or you can cut them as I go through the album. When I watch albums, for some reason, it's easier for me just to follow along and cut them as I go. But I notice almost all the videos I watch, they advise you to cut all the pieces out first. So I say whatever works best for you. So I'm going to show you how I cut out this album base. I used a file folder that, I don't know if you can call this the top tab, or when you turn it this way, it's the left tab. This is the one I used. Now, the first thing I did was trim off this side so that it's a straight edge. So I line it up here. I know I've got pretty close in, but basically I'm going to cut it so that I get rid of this so it's straight all the way down. So I just cut as close as I can. And you'll notice now it's straight. I should have the camera further away so you can see the whole thing. But I've got it set so it's a more close-up shot. Then, once you cut that, your folder's closed. You cut it at 6 1/4. And basically you'll be cutting off this tab. So my 6 1/4, let me see, let me pull this out. Looks like my 6 1/4 is right in here, right there, okay. So I'm gonna cut it at 6 1/4. Now I'm gonna save this, because this will be different pieces that I'm cutting. For the one we're doing, what I will do is cut off 2 3/4. I'm gonna put it in here and cut off the 2 3/4, but I'm not going to just yet. I already did it with this one so that I could show you. I cut it off at 2 3/4. So this one's cut. However, if you don't want the waterfall and you want a pocket, instead you would score this at 2 3/4. And then you would fold it over to help make your pocket. And you'll see as I make this back pocket what I'm talking about. So my base, I did cut it off at the 2 3/4 off one end. So now it's 6 1/4 by 15 inches wide. And I'll just double check that. Then I scored it. I opened the file folder. I put it down. And I scored it. Okay, then I scored it at 5 1/4, 6 3/4, and 12. So I made 3 scores, 5 1/4, 6 3/4, and 12. Then I'm going to go ahead and fold those and burnish them. If you want to write on yours as you cut the pieces, that's absolutely fine, because this is going to be covered up with designer paper. So don't worry about those folds where the original file folder closed, because this is going to be covered up with paper and it'll be plenty strong. It's amazing how durable these file folders are. So basically, there's my base. 5 1/4, 6 inches tall, and 1.5 inch spine. So now we're going to take the piece for the spine reinforcement. That's 6 1/8 by 1 3/8. And I'm just going to glue it right here to the back, just to give it a little more durability. I'm just going to use my Tombow glue. And I'll glue it right onto that spine. Right in the center. Now this back pocket, this is going to be the back pocket. We're going to make a notch, and I use my envelope punch board to do this. Now if you don't have the envelope punch board, you use like a 1-inch circle and just punch half of it so there's a little notch. That way it's really obvious it's a little pocket and it looks nice. We're gonna notch this at 3 1/8, 3 1/8, because it's 6 1/4 inches long. So 3 1/8 is half of that. We're just gonna go ahead and notch it. Now we're gonna make the wedges that are gonna go along this pocket. You see little pieces there that I use that envelope punch board a lot. I'm just gonna cut it off a little bit so it doesn't look rough. So these are my wedges, and I'm going to score each of them at 1/2 inch. And you can score them, or you can fold them in half like that. I'm going to score mine just so they fold a little more easily. So I'm scoring them at 1/2. I'm going to fold them and burnish them. And I'm going to use tape. For a lot of this project, I use 3/8 inch tape. Make sure I've got the right one. Yeah. So this is 1/2 inch, so I'm going to put 3/8 inch tape on both sides. I'm going to burnish it so the tape sticks really well, and sometimes it's easier to get that paper off if you do that. And I'm going to miter my edges. When I attach them to my pocket, it's going to go like this. I'm just going to center it. I'm going to adhere both of them with the open side going towards the inside of it. So I'll attach this one first. See how it opens up? Now I'm going to attach the other one. Now when I take the tape off, the paper off that tape, I'm just going to close it. So I'm going to remove the tape from both sides. I mean the paper from the tape. I'm just going to close it. And there's my pocket. So it gives you a little more depth to it when you have that those little wedges in there. Because you can kind of see the pencil. Now, this could be your front if you wanted it to, if you wanted the pocket on your front. But I'm using that on my back. So this is my front, that's my back with the pocket. The next thing I'm going to do is make the hinge piece that goes in here. this was also shown in Donna Kaufman's video. She gave really, really good instructions on how to put this hinge piece together. So the hinge piece is 7.5 by 6 inches. It's this piece. And what we're going to do, we're going to do some scoring on this. This hinge piece gets scored at 2, 2.5, 3, 3 3/8, 3 7/8, 4 3/4, 5 1/4. Oops. Oh, 4 3/8, 4 3/4, 5 1/4, and 5 3/4. I'm going to repeat that. It gets scored at 2, 2.5, 3, 3 3/8, 3 7/8, 4 3/8, 4 3/4, 5 1/4, 5 3/4. Okay, if you've never made a hinge piece before, I'm going to try to explain this. See this first little row? That's just going to be like where you're going to fold over. So I'm going to write on this. This is not going to show. That's going to be fold. This next panel, we're going to put tape on it. And this one, next one's going to be blank. Then the next one's one that we fold over, tape, blank, fold, tape. And like the other one, I'm using the 3/8 inch tape. So all these that I wrote the word tape, I'm going to put tape right down that column. Only on the ones that say tape. Now we're going to fold. It's going to fold over like this. The one that folds, this one, right by the tape. So those that are going to be folding, I'm just going to go ahead and fold all those to start with, one at a time, to make it easier. And fold. So you'll have 3 folds. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my first piece of tape off, paper off the tape. The one that was folded, I folded over. Then this, see the score line there? I'm just going to fold it back like that. This one, there's a fold, so I'm going to remove my paper from the tape, fold that over. Then when I fold it back, there's another score line. I've got one more to do. Fold it over, and then fold it back on this line. Then when you turn it over, you'll see these are your hinges for your pages. As I'm looking at this, I wonder if I should have done that before I put that pocket in. No, there's going to be plenty of room. Okay. So those are the hinges that are going to go in the middle of my book. Now I'm going to put some really thick tape on the back of this so it doesn't take as many pieces. And I'm going to go opposite of my folds. I'm not going to go this direction, I'm going to go this direction. And I'm just going to do however many pieces it takes until this is totally covered with tape. I think this one's 2.5. 2.5 inches wide. And unless you're going to make a number of books, I don't know if I'd necessarily invest in the tape. If you're making quite a few, it's really, really worth it. Don't want to stick to this. The bigger tape is hard to handle, but it's really strong. Now I think I'll use my 1/2 inch. I also have some 1/2 inch of this tape. Fill up part of that gap. Then I'll use my Stampin' Up! 1/4 inch. The first one I made, I did use this 1/4 inch all the way across. It makes it really strong. So if you're just making 1 or 2, no need to order a bunch of different sizes. Okay, I'm gonna burnish this really well. Then when I take the tape off, I'm going to line this up where it's centered between here and here, and also centered top and bottom. Some sticky stuff. So I'm going to take my time and just make sure that I can see my little notches so I can center it both directions. Try not to get my head in the way. Okay, so there and there. Sorry, I know. That looks centered there. Pull it down so I can get a really good look. So there. And now that I'm thinking about this too, when I did my other books, I really did use that good tape on the spine. I think that glue's gonna be fine, but I did use tape on the back. So there's my hinges. Now we're gonna work on the pages that go over these hinges. But first we're gonna fold where your score line is there and there. We're gonna fold there and burnish it. It's easier for me just to fold it than to try to rescore it. But if scoring works better for you, do whatever works better. I'm gonna fold this one on that score line. Make sure it's straight and burnish it. Oops, let me see, that looked a little crooked. We redo that, okay. There. So there's a nice sturdy spine with hinges. Okay. For your pages, you'll need to pull the 3 pieces that are page part 1 and the 3 pieces that are, oh, those waterfall. the 3 pieces that are page part 2. Page part 1, page part 2. Now 3 of them, page part 1 is 7 by 4 and 7/8. You need 3 of those. Page part 2 is 6 by 4 and 7/8. You need 3 of those. So for all 3 of these pages that are 7 by 4 and 7/8, you're going to score them each at 1/2 inch horizontally or landscape. So 1/2 inch over here. You could turn it over, do the other 1/2 inch, or just do 6 1/2. There'll be 1/2 inch on each side. So do that to all 3. And then put your 3/8 inch tape on that tab that you just scored on both sides. Then burnish your tape. Go ahead and burnish your fold too where you scored it. Now you'll see that this is the same width as page part 2. And so what you're going to do is you're going to glue those 2 together like that. Before you do that though, I forgot on the ones I did already, but you should go ahead and miter your corners. Then you're going to adhere both sides. I just do one at a time, get it straight, and then do the next one. And see, I got it a little bit there. I can trim that off. It's just a little, it wouldn't matter if you left it, but I got it a little bit off. Okay. So that's a page. I already put the other 2 together. And these are going to fit over your hinges. And another step we should have done with the hinges before we glued them, which we can do them now, but I think it's easier to do it before you glue that down. But you're going to put a, let me see, that's 1/2 inch. We're going to put 3/8 inch tape on both sides of all 3 of these. And we're just going to put it in the middle of those hinges, like that, on both sides. And you can tear this tape, you don't have to cut it, but I just cut it. For these projects like this 3/8 inch tape really is handy. Fits right in that 1/2 inch tabs and scores and everything. We are going to put some paper in between these tabs once we decorate it, but this might show up a little bit on some of the edges, so I'm going to go ahead and erase those marks. Okay, so I'm going to burnish these really well on both sides of all of them. Like I say, if you think about it, I would do this before you glue this hinge piece down. This is the part that's a little bit awkward, but you're going to miter these corners. On the hinges, like that, on both sides. Then your pages are going to fit right over those hinges like that. And before you remove the tape, it's a good idea just to test it, just to be sure, in case it's not mitered enough. You still have time to cut it a little deeper, but this one's going to go just fine. We can see it goes right on there. And when you put it on there, you don't make it flush with the bottom. Don't push it all the way down. Just leave a tiny little bit, like maybe, I don't know if that's even 1/16 or just a tiny little bit. You want to leave it up from the bottom. So we'll do this one first. Oops, kind of leaning on there. Okay. So I'm going to go like that. And you see I just have a little bit. And this one, too, there's a little bit of tape there, which is no big deal. It's not going to stick to anything. So then I test the second page. I already put these two together. Okay. And the last page. I test all of them just in case I've gotten anything off. I can fix it before I get tape stuck to it. Yeah, that'll be good. So there are our 3 pages. Now we're going to work on the folders that fit into the pages. Like this. This is the folder that goes into the page. Now we have 3 pieces of 8 1/4 by 5 3/4. going to score these horizontally or landscape, however you call it. So we'll score them at 4 1/8. Yeah, this is 8 1/4, so we're doing half of it, 4 1/8. Next time I need to be careful where I write, because I'll erase that. I just don't want the little edge of the pencil to show. So 4 1/8 on all 3 of these. Oh, I did that one wrong. That's okay. I'm going to do it here. I'm still going to use this. I'm not going to worry about that. So 4 1/8. I will turn this over and just slightly go over the one I shouldn't have done. Okay. Before I fold and burnish these, I'm going to get rid of this part, because right there along the edge, it may not be covered. It most likely will not be covered up by the designer paper. I don't want those marks showing on my edge. And as you're making these, you don't have to write on them, or perhaps make it smaller or in a different spot than I did. So now we're going to fold these and burnish them. I noticed some of my edges are a little bit rough. So I just take an emery board and just file them down a little bit, just so it's not as obvious. Okay, this is the one, that's the right fold, okay. While I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and round all my corners. And I'm just going to use, if you have a corner rounder, go ahead and use your corner rounder. I'm just using the opposite end of my envelope punch board. This little rounder thing that you use for envelopes. I'm just using that. It's a nice shape. And since I'm using this for other things anyway, I'll just use this. Do this to all 3 pieces. Okay. Now these are going to slide into the pockets like this. And we're also going to adhere magnets. But we'll wait and do all of our magnets at one time. So there's the pockets. There's the pages with their little folders. They'll fit like that. But now we're going to put the little pocket on the back of each page. So I'll just get these out of the way so they're not so bulky. These pockets are 5 3/4 by 2 7/8, and there's 3 of them. And we're going to notch the middle of these with our envelope punch board. We're going to notch them at 2 7/8. 2 7/8. All 3 of them. I'm going to erase towards the bottom because we are going to score these at 1/2 inch on 3 sides, just to make it cleaner when we put it together. So on all three sides that are not notched, you're going to score it 1/2 inch. Then go ahead and grab your 3/8 inch tape. And put tape on these tabs. I'm not going to worry about the corners because that's going to get cut off anyway. And I don't want to waste my tape, so I'm just going to put it on those 3 parts. So that's all 3 of them. And then we'll miter the corners. Even these top ones. Just be very careful not to cut into any of your score lines. Be sure those remain intact. Like that. So that's all 3 pieces. Now we'll go ahead and fold these over and burnish them really well on both sides. And then you'll adhere the tabs together. Like that. So now this is ready to go on the back of one of the pages. Oh, before we do that though, because this is a really important part as far as I'm concerned. We're going to notch these pages at 3 inches. And really, I usually do that before I put it in there, but it's not too late. So with my envelope punch board, I'm going to put it in at 3 inches and notch it. All 3 pages. It just makes it look more finished. Okay. It would be harder to do if I waited till I got the envelope on the back. So here's the envelope, which is notched. And we're just going to line it up. First time, before I adhere the tape, I'm just going to make sure where it's going to line up at. Just center it at the bottom of this page and make it flush with the bottom. But center it between the 2 edges. There might be like 1/16 of an inch on each side. If you don't get exactly at the bottom, it's not the end of the world. It'll still look cute. See, there's my pocket. So now I'm going to do these other two the same way and adhere them to pages 2 and 3. Sometimes I see little pieces of adhesive getting on my paper here, and I try to get rid of it so it doesn't stick to any of the paper I'm working with. See, it doesn't take real long to put these little mini albums together, the base. The time-consuming part is decorating. It's a lot of fun, but it does take a while. Now we're going to work on, I believe we'll work on a folder for the back. We're going to, the folded card that we stick in the back, I think that's what we'll do next. Is this piece right here. It's just an extra place for journaling or photos. You could do 4 photos, or you could do a photo and journaling. If you want to, you can put this designer paper on all of this. You don't have to use very vanilla like I did, but you can decorate it however you like. But we're going to work on that folder. So the folder, the piece of file folder that you need is 9.5 by 5.5. You only need one. And I didn't write on all mine as I was doing them. I just thought this would be helpful as you're watching the video, not realizing I should have written in different areas that I knew for sure would be covered up. Okay. So we're going to score this piece in half. It's 9.5 inches long. So we're going to score it at 4 3/4. And we're also going to round the edges. So I'll use my corner rounder that's in my envelope punch board, just because it's handy. Now we'll fold it and burnish it. And that's the folder that's going to go in the very back. And we'll just keep it out for now until we get our waterfall cards made. And that's what we're going to do next. The waterfall cards are going to look like this. There'll be an envelope behind them that's going to hold a card. And then this is going to come down. And there's the waterfall cards. So this is the pocket base for the waterfall card. So for the envelope base for the waterfall card, this is the envelope, the pocket base. I don't know why I call it envelope, but it's the pocket base. We're going to score it on 3 sides at 1/2 inch. So we want to leave one horizontal or landscape edge not scored. So we'll score 1/2 inch. On 3 sides. We'll put our 3/8 inch tape along these tabs. We're not going to notch this one because the top of it is not going to show. But we're going to miter our corners. Got close. It's still good. And then we're going to fold along the score lines and burnish. On both sides. Okay, when we adhere this, it's going to be 1/8 of an inch all the way around. That means it's going to be about 1/8 of an inch there. We're going to center it, and then about 1/8 of an inch from the bottom. So when we adhere it, that's where it's going to land. So I just kind of hover over it until I feel like I'm in the right spot by looking at both sides and the bottom. And then I place it. So I got a little more on this side than this side. It's okay. It's not going to affect anything. So got that. So there's the base for the waterfall. Next, you'll pull out the 3 waterfall cards. They're 5 inches by 4 1/4 inches. You need 3 of them. And you're going to score these. These will score portrait or vertical. So that means the long sides are going to be over here, the short sides up there. And we're going to score these at 1/2 inch. Just one side, all of them. So this gets scored at 1/2 inch. Landscape. I'm going to glue it right on top there. So I'm going to use my tape. I'm just going to adhere it right on top. Okay. We're going to put adhesive on all 3 of these tabs. Then go ahead and fold on the score line and burnish on both sides of all 3 pieces. We're not going to miter these corners. We're just going to leave those. The first one that we lay down, we're going to take the tape off and we're going to line it up with the top of this envelope. It'll be flush on both sides and at the top. I'm gonna get it where I can see it good. Try not to get my head in the view of the camera, if possible. Hope you can see this. So we want it to be lined up flush. It's a little bit crooked, it looks like. Yeah, I got it a little bit off. Maybe I can do this and score it. Yeah, I got it a little bit crooked, so I just kind of lined it up with the edge and rescored it so it doesn't stick out. Then the next one we put down is going to go right underneath it, like that. And it's going to be right up against it. I try to keep my fingers under there with the tape before I move them so I can make sure I'm getting everything straight. Okay. And the next one is going to go right underneath there, just flush, like that. Since I know that one's straight, I don't even have to worry too much about the sides. Okay, so there's the 3 waterfall cards, and there's going to be a magnet on this. So basically, except for the magnets, our album is ready to decorate. But I'm going to show you how to put the magnets in. I just got a new type of magnet, so I'm going to try it on this and see how well it works. I'm trying to find the least expensive ones I can that will still hold it good. These may not be as strong because it came apart fairly easily, but we're going to give them a shot. It still picks them up. Okay. I use my 1/4 inch tape and just put a little bit on each side. I got 2 magnets out. There's 2 magnets stuck together. So I put tape on this side, and then I turn it over and put tape on the other side. Just a little square. And I'm going to want it to go about there on this little tab. So I'm going to put it on the tab first. And don't worry if it's not centered. I mean, I try to get centered, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Oops, I knocked that one off. See, these aren't quite as strong as the ones I usually use, so we'll see how it's going to work. And then you're just going to have this closed. Peel off the tape of this one. Yeah, these aren't quite as strong, so we'll see. And then close it. And then it should stick and open. I'm gonna put a sticky note there, just so it doesn't, hopefully won't peel it up. But it's still sticking. Now we're gonna do each of the, this is the card for the back pocket, so it's going to go in here. It doesn't need a magnet. Then these are the pages for these pockets, and they are going to need a magnet. So we're going to do it the same way. Just take 2 of them. They're already stuck together. Unless you have the ones that have the self-adhesive stuff on them already. Then peel off the paper of one side. Stick it about right there on the folder. Make sure your folder is lined up, centered, up and down, because when you get the magnet stuck, that's the way it's going to want to close from now on. That looks good. So I'm just going to hold it in place, peel this one off, and let it stick. Oh, good. Same as the other one. I'm just going to put a little sticky note between there until I get my designer paper on there. So I'm going to do the other two pockets. So, there's the mini album. My next video, Toile Tidings Mini Album Part 2, will show you how to decorate the mini album like this one. That video will give you the measurements and tips, so be sure to look for Toile Tidings Mini Album Part 2.